We would like to thank Gihan Dias for inviting us to make this presentation on the occasion of the 20th anniversary of the establishment of Internet in Sri Lanka. I am Prabhat Samaratunga.
I am Saman Amarasinghe. Both of us were young graduate students in the Silicon Valley during the time the internet boom started.
I first started to use the internet around 1985 when I got access to the first main networking computer UCB ARPA at the University of California at Berkeley. At that time, there were only about 1,000 machines connected to the internet worldwide. During the same time, Professor Gihan Dias, who was also a graduate student in California, started a dial-up email service to Sri Lanka. By 1993, still there was no internet connection in Sri Lanka. 4 engineers of Sri Lanka origin living in the United States, Nalin Kulatilaka, Saman Amarasinghe, Prasad Dharmasena, and myself, and Siri Samarakkodi in Sri Lanka, plan to remedy this situation by forming a company to bring the internet to Sri Lanka. Prasad, who was one of the visionaries originally, then dropped out because of a policy issue with his then employer. At that time, a person named Randy Bush had started an organization called Network Startup Resource Center in Oregon, and he was helping people to set up large-scale dial-up networks to connect to the internet. I visited Randy in Oregon and learned how to set up telephone access to a large number of dial-up computers. I also learned from Randy how to connect to the internet via dedicated digital data link of high capacity. But when we costed out the link cost to connect a 64 kilobits per second digital circuit from Sri Lanka to the internet, at that time the cost was about 1.6 million US dollars per year. So we immediately thought that we need to get a bank to help us seriously fund our project, and we approached the DFCC. The people running the DFCC at that time, Mr. Maxi Prelis and Mr. Chandra Kure, were visionaries, but they were nevertheless wanting to spread the risk. So they recruited Mr. Chandra Vijanayak and Chivaka Veeratunga of Central Finance too. So our internet project was funded through Lanka Ventures Limited. At Lanka Ventures, Mr. Piyathena, who is currently at the HNB, was one of the persons who realized the value of bringing the internet to Sri Lanka and helped us fulfill the goal in spite of many obstacles. By March 1994, we had established the data connection between Lanka Internet's office at the IBM building at Navammawatha and the Sprint gateway to the internet in New York. But the link still did not work for a month. Finally, after a lot of painstaking debugging, we sent the first round-trip ping packet from IBM building, Sri Lanka, through the Sprint router in New York to Sprint engineers workstation. The engineer's name was Marty Kaiser. Marty Kaiser, Randy Bush, Saman Amarasinghe, Hemantha Jayawardena, Channa Silva, and myself were the key engineers who helped to establish the first internet link to Sri Lanka. I was the first CEO of Lanka Internet, and the first internet connection was given to Dr. Arthur C. Clarke in April 1994. In our business plan presented to the Lanka Ventures, we optimistically projected that we will have up to 50 dial-up customers by the second year of operation. However, within the first 2 months, we had over 500 customers, and then subsequently the growth was exponential. The key Lanka Internet engineers at that time were Hemantha Jayawardena and Channa Silva, and the marketing was carried out by Rukma Fernando and Vasi Nesaya.
One of the biggest problems faced by Lanka Internet was the last mile solution. If you remember those days, the telephone connections were mainly given using overhead copper wires. They had a lot of interference, and many times you can hear your neighbors' conversations due to crosstalk. While this was a great form of entertainment those days, Such interference was catastrophic to maintain a good modem connection, even at 1200 baud. Lanka internet engineers worked hard to find the right formula, the type of modem and the modem settings to finally establish a 9600 baud connection and keep it going for a long time. In fact, the most important intellectual property of Lanka internet at that time was the settings of the modems that let this happen. However, commercial establishments required more reliable and high bandwidth connections. Those days, point-to-point wireless radios were very expensive and Wi-Fi was still not even invented. However, what became Wi-Fi or the 802.11 standard originated at a company called Aeronet, who had just started fabricating first sped spectrum multipoint radios. However, the sped spectrum radios were approved for the US for short distance in-building communication. So their transmission power was set at 50 milliwatts. This was way too low for long distances. So we figured out how we can rig a 10 watt amplifier on top of one of those Aeronet radios and do transmission powerful enough to do a metropolitan area connection. Lanka Internet established the first broadband sped spectrum metropolitan area network in Sri Lanka. In fact, this was the second such network in the world. Latvia established the first network few months before us, and both of us were using Aeronet. We put our hub on top of the World Trade Center building with a high-end omnidirectional antenna, and each customer unit we used a directional Yagi antenna. So we were able to give much more reliable high bandwidth connections throughout Colombo metropolitan area. In fact, all the way up to Mirigama, we were able to connect Unilever facilities and also some mass facilities to our network. Use of the sped spectrum was made possible because the Telecommunication Regulatory Commission was very kind enough to allocate us 1/3 of the entire S-band for our exclusive use. However, we were very courteous enough not to enforce this on other users, which led to rapid popularity of wireless LANs in Sri Lanka.
Lanka Internet set up the first stock market data feed from Colombo Stock Exchange in 1996. The first Sri Lankan newspaper that was published on the internet was the Daily News via Lanka Internet. While Lanka Internet did not enforce any trademarks, the Sri Lanka government department dealing with the trademarks nevertheless granted Lanka Internet the rights to use the phrases Internet and the World Wide Web. As a result of Lanka Internet's liberal policies of not taking advantage of first mover privileges, Sri Lanka's internet growth began to thrive, and Sri Lanka is one of the most internet connected developing countries with substantial competition among the internet service providers. The Sinhala word for internet, Antarjala, was coined by my wife, Dr. Vidya Jayawardena. The first baby picture was published in the internet in Sri Lanka on May 27, 1996, and it was of my daughter Praveena Samartunga. Thank you for listening to this initial introduction to the setup of internet in Sri Lanka.